Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Check this out. I got a question for you. What does success look like? I'll be honest. At different points in my life, success looked differently, or at least what I thought was success. And I came to this question because I was listening to a podcast not that long ago. Journalist Jamel Hill. She formerly of ESPN, Sports Center, and everything. She has a podcast, and she was interviewing fellow ESPNer or a former ESPNer, I should say, host Bomani Jones, who also has a podcast as well. It's called The Right Time with Bomani Jones. I've been rocking with Bomani for a long time. And so I was excited to see the two of them, both, journalists, both sports media personalities, being interviewed. And from what I can tell, or at least what I assumed, having worked at ESPN at the same time, they had more than just a working relationship, that there was a friendship there. And I wanted to see that kind of shine through the podcast. But in the midst of the podcast, Jamel asked Bomani, what did success look like for you growing up? And he gave his answer, but it made me think there's a couple of different things that I thought about that particular question. And I want to pose it to you. The first question is, what did success look like for you at the age of 20? And then, assuming that you're not 20 right now, what does success look like for you now? And to answer that, I have to kind of go back, because my mindset and my mentality has changed, obviously, because I'm not 20 anymore. At the time of this recording, I'm 51 years old. So I'm an old guy, a washed vet, and proud of it. But no, it made me think, like, when I was 20, man, it was, you really just saw everything, like, really just right in front of you. You couldn't see down the road. You couldn't see 20 years later. You couldn't see 30 years later. And I think that's how it's supposed to be. For me, at 20, I was in college. I was at South Carolina State University. So to me, at that particular point in my life, what I defined as success and what I tried to reach as success was vastly different from what it was later on in life. But at 20, I grew up. Well, I guess I can go back from the time that I was 7 or 8 until I got to be 20. I had different ideas and different things that I wanted to do and things that I wanted to accomplish. And obviously, I knew that there had to be some type of goal set forth to get there. And the question is not so much as, can you reach your goal, but how are you going to get to your goal? And not just one goal, but all of your goals. And so those are the things that I kind of threw around to myself as I was, coming up in this world. But yeah, I mean, let's just say from the age of 8 through my teenage years, through the young adulthood of 20. Yeah, I mean, like, success was definitely defined by, having a lot of money, having a good job, and doing whatever it took to get that money and that job. And so I made myself goals, things that I wanted to do and I wanted to accomplish. And I think more than anything else, what I deemed as success, what I did not know, or didn't notice, I should say, because I think I knew, but I think I was really surrounded by people that constantly pushed me, being my parents, my family, my brother, my younger brother, I should say, friends, crew, and just society. I think I was pushed in a lot of different ways positively. Um, and so I think by having that push and then having those desires and that goal and that mindset to go get it, I think I was on the path to achieve that level of success or whatever I deem to be success. Um, nobody tells you what success looks like, because success is definitely defined differently depending on who you are, where you're from, and how you actually carry yourself through life. Um, so there was no right or wrong way to get to where I was trying to go, but I knew that there was a path. And whatever that path was, I was going to try to travel that path as best I could, but I didn't have all the answers. And I was probably surrounded by people who gave me some answers that sometimes I didn't even want to listen to. But, at 18, 19, 20, the world is your oyster. You think that you're going to live forever. You think that you're going to, do all of these things, and you're going to go all of these places, and you're going to meet all of these people. And the reality is, maybe you do, maybe you don't. It just depends on what paths that you take. But I thought it was interesting that, again, going back to the question, what did success look like at 20? Success for me at 20 meant, getting my college degree, which I was on pace to do at 20. Moving out of my mom's house, which technically I'd already done because I went off to college, and I never lived in my mom's house again after college. I couldn't go back. I didn't want to go back. And there's no slight on my hometown. I love my hometown of Florence, South Carolina, but I wasn't going back. I just didn't feel the need to. And then after that, it was about, okay, putting yourself in a position to make money. Well, I figured, okay, hey, if I got a college degree, I'm going to make some money. Will I make millions? Probably not. But, I don't think my goal was ever to make millions. And I never necessarily deemed being a millionaire as successful. However, I think we all want $1 million or more. I think we'd be lying if we said that, we weren't trying to get it. But it also depends on what are you going to do to make the million. And shout out to my homeboy, Uncle Dolomite from the Too Much Game podcast. I heard him say this on a podcast once. He said, you can tell me that you want to be a millionaire. He said, my question is, what are you doing to become a millionaire? And I think that's a fair question, because if you can't tell someone what you're doing to attain that money, then you're just talking. And I think we're surrounded by enough people that do enough talking. You don't have to do any more talking than you have to. But yeah, so those were the ideas. Okay, so success at 20 looked like, getting the college degree, making a lot of money, doing whatever it was that I chose to do in whatever professional field that I was going to enter. And that was success. And I'll be honest, that probably is how, it's kind of defined for a lot of people at that particular age. It's interesting, at the time of this recording, my two oldest sons are 24 and 21. And for them, success probably looks like that. And I don't know, because maybe they look at me and my wife and they think, okay, well, we need to be like mom and dad. I don't know. I mean, that's a slippery slope as a parent, because one thing I try to tell them and remind them is that when they look at us, they see whatever level of success that they think that they see. But understand that this is the finished product. They weren't with us when we were shooting in the gym. And what I mean by that is, like, no, they don't, my kids, and of course they wouldn't know, but they don't know what life was like for me at 21 or when I was their age at 24, 21. It looked a lot differently. And, the thing I try to impress upon them is that right now you're on a path that you are far better off than where I was at that particular time. Now you got to put in the work, but if you're willing to do the work, you're going to get the reward. That's just the way it works. But whatever that reward is, it's got to be the reward that you want for yourself, not necessarily what society deems. And that's the thing too. I always try to impart to them, particularly now as they've gotten older, is that no, society will tell you that you need to be a certain way, or you need to look a certain way, or you need to have certain things, and that would deem success. That's not success. Success is determined by you. It depends on what it is that you want to do, how you value yourself. Can you take care of yourself? Can you take care of your family if you have a family? Can you provide? Can you protect? That's success. Success is never. It should never be measured by dollars, because dollars are just that. None of that. None of the money that you make you can take with you when it's time to go. So, like I said, I just at 20, it was I definitely saw it differently than I do now. Now, later on in life, it begs the question that Jamel asked Bomani as well. What does success look like for you now? Now, how I view success now, man, it's totally different. It's totally different. I don't view it as something like uh something that I can't attain. I feel like I am now, but I will say this much: by society's standards and how society measures you, I'm successful. I've done the right things, gone the right places, done the right things, by society standards. But the thing is, I don't live by society standards, never have. And so someone can say, oh man, you got a great life, you got a wife, you got kids, you got a house, cars, investments, blah, 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 blah. None of that stuff matters. I mean, like, at the end of the day, the only thing that's important to me is the family. That's it. Because everything else I didn't have before. So I could literally, now I don't want to, but I could literally start from scratch tomorrow and get it all back. Will it take me another 50 years to get it all back? I don't know. Probably not, because I found ways to hustle. But at the same time, I'm still not defined by society, and I don't think none of us are. At least you shouldn't allow society to do that to you. Especially when it comes to being materialistic. I've never been materialistic. I like nice things. I will spend money on nice things because that's what I like. But I'm not defined by those nice things. And I always use Air Jordans as an example, because when I was a kid in 1988, I wanted a pair of Air Jordans. In 1988, Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player on the planet. He was probably the most recognizable figure on planet Earth. And he had this signature shoe, the Air Jordan, and I wanted it so bad. It was the Air Jordan 3, the cement threes. And I wanted it. Oh, man, I wanted those shoes so bad. And those shoes were like $75. And my mom was not going to buy me no $75 shoes. I think they were like $75, $80. They were less than 100, but they were more than 50. And she was like, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, at that point in time, there was a lot of money. It was a lot of money for us. And so now, the Air Jordan Cement 3 costs a little more than that. I mean, you could probably find some, I don't know, online. You're going to spend $300-$400, maybe $500, depending on the type of Jordan it is. But now, being in a position where I can afford them, I'll buy a pair of sneakers, and I'll buy them just because I couldn't buy them back then. So it's kind of like nostalgia. So the level of achievement, I don't even want to say success, the level of achievement has allowed me to be in a position where I can buy the Air Jordans. Do I need Air Jordans? No, I don't need Air Jordans. But I'm going to buy Air Jordans because I like the way they look, and I like the way they feel, and I like the way they feel on my feet. But that's a small level of success, if you will. Being able to purchase or get things that you want. But it's not important. Honestly, it's not, because ultimately I'm only required to have shoes on my feet. That's it. You don't have to have on Jordans. You can put on some Pumas. You can put on some Cougars. Y'all remember Cougars? But yeah, it's so success now definitely looks different. I think the biggest thing for me now, as far as success, is being able to, make this marriage work and be a father to Dion, Cameron, Brandon, and Skylar. Um, it's not easy having 3 boys and a girl, but, I think it's very rewarding. And I mean, nobody tells you that parenthood is supposed to be easy because it's not, but it's not supposed to be. So, but I'm blessed enough to be a father. So, um, that's something, but it's constant work. It's just like marriage, it's constant work. And I think those are the levels of success that I think that I've achieved that I want to keep achieving. But it also comes with, again, the work. You have to put in the work. So success, even that level of success, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen through osmosis, but it does lend itself to being there for those who put in the time and the effort and the work. And if you're willing to do that, then you can achieve that. I'll say this. When I was younger, I had different thoughts, but honestly, success when you were younger was probably more individualistic. Or at least that's the way it seemed. Because it was about your hustle, it was about you chasing money, it was about you chasing girls, it was about you chasing whatever it was that drove you. If it was your school, it was about you chasing those grades and being successful in the classroom. If you were on a playing field, you're an athlete, it was about that type of success, the success that you had in your particular sport. And so it was more individualistic. As I've gotten older, now that I'm old, success, you find that success is more, it depends more on other people. So if you have a marriage, your success of your marriage depends on not just you, but the other person. If you're successful in fatherhood or motherhood, that depends on, your kids. So it's not just you anymore. It's not about you anymore. And I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned over a period of time, that I probably viewed success individualistically when I was younger, as opposed to now being older. I view it as more of a something that I need other people's help to do. And even in business, I mean, like if you're in business for yourself, it's, you need other people. I mean, you can't buy all the goods and everything like that. You need people, and you need to hire people, and you need to be able to do certain things. So yeah, ultimately, I think it's a very good and very deep conversation to have. I think everybody's answer is a little different though, because again, what success looked like when I was 20 definitely looks different than it does now that I'm 51. Success at what you think is successful at 21, I think by the time you're 30, 35, it's going to look different, because we're constantly changing and you're constantly evolving. And as you evolve, so does your thought process, and so does the things that you choose to pour yourself into. So it's a good thing to think about. But I'll leave you with this. Never let society tell you how successful you are or you aren't. I got one of my best friends in the world, my boy Jay Fresh. Jay Fresh, now you guys have heard me talk about him on this podcast before. Fresh and I talk about this all the time. And I remember one day we were talking on the phone, and Fresh was like, he's like, man, you and the rest of the fellas, man, y'all got it all, man. Y'all got family, y'all got kids. And he doesn't. He doesn't have any, he's single, he doesn't have any kids. He's got college degrees, but he doesn't have any kids. But I mean, that's a choice. And I just explained to him, like, that doesn't make us more successful than you. I was like, bruh, you were able to pick up and leave Atlanta, Georgia, and go to Florida. And you left Florida and moved all the way across the country to LA. I was like, and you didn't have to check with nobody. You didn't have to make sure that the school systems were straight in the area that you lived in. And he's been in LA 20 plus years now. And I was like, that was a choice that you made. I was like, but you made that choice independently. I was like, the rest of the crew, yeah, we're married. Some of us divorced, got kids. We all got kids. We've been able to do certain things, but that doesn't mean that we're more successful than you. Doesn't mean you're any more successful than us. It's all about what you put into it. And I don't put a lot into it, because society will tell you, oh, well, he has a wife, he has a kid, he has a house. And this guy over here, he doesn't have any of those things, but he's got a college degree, he's got a pretty decent job. None of that stuff matters. None of it matters, because success is determined and defined by you. You are successful as you think you are. That's the honest truth. I mean, everything else comes and goes. Cars come and go. Houses come and go. Spouses sometimes come and go. Girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, success is defined by you. So what success looks like, what it feels like, only you can answer that question. But be sure to never let anybody tell you that you're not successful, because the reality is you really are. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Remember, this podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. From time to time, we drop bonus episodes on Sundays at midnight. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. Podcast is on TikTok, Twitter X, Facebook, Instagram. My personal page, 12 Kyle, on TikTok. No, I'm not on TikTok. Excuse me. My personal page is on Twitter X, Facebook, Instagram. But yeah, follow us. Make sure that if you want to see the podcast, we have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/12 Kyle. Go there. All of the episodes are there. And if you feel like contributing financially, hit us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Again, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5 G's. Cheers.